This video discusses and shows how to define a site in Dreamweaver. Now, we talked about this in the last video, but I will say it again. Defining a site in Dreamweaver tells Dreamweaver where the files are for your website, all of the files. Your Photoshop files do not need to be in the same folder as the actual HTML files and the little, you'll be taking your Photoshop file and taking parts of it, parts of the design, and turning them into JPEGs and PNG files and GIF files. So you don't need your PSD file or your Illustrator file, any of that stuff, in the same folder where all of your web files are. You can see here all I have are HTML and JPEGs. I don't have any of those art files over here. So if I go to, so I would just keep that. If I were structuring this, I would have folder, and then inside here I have a folder site final. You might want to name it something else. I like that name, but you might want to name it site files. That makes sense. And then you might want to have your artwork file sitting out, or you might want to have another folder called site art. And inside the site art, that's where your Photoshop files, anything that you're gathering for your site, Word docs, all that stuff can go. And then your site files, that could be where your HTML and JPEGs are. For me, this is just how I've come to work over the years, so you don't have to do it like that. But that folder, the site files folder, what I like to do with it, this is what we'll call your root folder. So this is on my desktop inside an Art190 folder, since this is the class, and then this is where the files actually are. This is the one I am going to tell Dreamweaver about. For this demo, this is the one that I care about. Inside here, I'm going to create a folder called Images. Now, there are many of you that are about to do this. You're about to do it like so. You're about to do a capital I and then MAGES. Industry standard is lower I, MAGES. That's far more common. So do it that way. No spaces, anything. So it's very, very important, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. No spaces in file names or folder names, okay? If you need to, you can put a dash in there, but don't do spaces. So this is my file, my folder, my root folder, site files. So now I'm going to define a site. So I'm going to, I've created my folder on my computer. I've put an images folder inside of it. Now I'm going to go to Site, New Site. And I'm going to name this, in my case, I'm going to name it Art190 Fall 2012. You may name it whatever you would like. The name of the site, so I just said no spaces. This is something in Dreamweaver, it does not care. This is the one place where it doesn't matter. There's always an exception to the rule, and this is a place. Now, my local site folder. Local means your computer. It's very important to remember that. You will deal with the word local quite a bit in web development. Local site folder, where my folder is that holds my site files. Then I'm going to click right here to tell it where those files are. And if I go to MCC Fall 2012, that's what my parent folder is. Inside of there, I have Art190. Now here is where the files are actually going to be, HTML files, JPEGs, that kind of thing. So I'm going to double click that, and now I can click select, or I think on a Mac it'll say open. Okay, and then I click save. Now, I know that I have done things correctly because I can see right here it says Art190, what I named it. Don't go with unnamed site. You will lose points in the class for that. Then right here, I can see that it says site, Art190, and if I put my mouse over this, I see the path. And you need to see something like C colon. If you see the name of your thumb drive right here, that's bad. You always want to drag your file, your folder, your site folder. You want to drag that onto the desktop, define your site from the desktop. You don't want to have your thumb drive plugged in. If there's art files on there that you think you want to use, drag those onto the computer, drag your site folder onto the computer, your root folder onto the computer, and unplug that thumb drive. It will cause you problems if you don't. Big problems. So here I can see that I'm on my hard drive. This is exactly where everything is. And inside there I can see that I have an images folder. That means things are good. Now if I let's just go ahead and create a new file. This is the final test to see if you defined your site properly. I'm going to do File, New. And for right now we're just going to choose blank HTML page and hit Create. Then I'm going to say File, Save, or shortcut key, Control S or Command S. And now look, it says Site Files, Images, but there's more to this, especially if you're on like a Mac. It's sometimes you got to check this and make sure you're in the proper place. So if you go up, and on a Mac it's different to go up, but if you go out of where you are, I can see I'm inside of a folder called Art 190. I can see inside, I'm inside a folder called MCC FA12, Vol 12. And then I can see this is my desktop. So I know I am exactly where I intended to be. Usually once you check it that first time you're okay. But again, this is the thing that happens with thumb drives. Also, there's going to be a lot of students working on the computer, so be sure when you first start working on your site that things are in the proper place. Okay, and this is one good way to tell. So I'm going to just do a test file here. Just name it test. And now I know I did everything correctly because in my files panel I see that file that I just saved. It just showed up. I can see that it was saved at 4:47. This is a very important check to do every time you come into the lab when you're working at home, the first time you define a site at home. Very, very important to make sure things are defined properly, and I will be watching it very closely throughout the semester. Now there's another step that I'll go over in a later video about making it so that you can connect to websites, setting what's known as your FTP settings. But this is the defining a site process, and when you're ready to leave the lab for the day, then or remove a site, you want Dreamweaver to forget about it. I'm going to close this. What you do is you go to Site, Manage Site, choose the particular site, and click Remove. And once you do that, you say Yes, Done, and it's no longer here. If you choose Manage Site and you look for it, it should no longer be there. In my case, I have a lot of sites defined in here, so there'll always be something. But in your case, if you go to Site, Manage Sites, and you see anything in here, it probably needs to be removed. Are those files still on my computer? They absolutely are. But Dreamweaver doesn't know about them anymore. That's what you need to do when you leave before you leave the lab. And then you're going to drag your folder. Hold on a second. This is my folder. You're going to drag the folder. Of course, maybe I just have site files and site art. I don't know. You're going to drag those onto your thumb drive and then throw the folders away in the trash after you've put your work on your thumb drive, and then you are done. But you definitely want to remove your site after you finish working, because you don't know if you're going to work on that computer again and who's going to come to that computer in between the time that you leave for the night and the next time you get there. And that really matters once you put in your FTP settings, because that means other people can connect to your project that you've uploaded to the website and accidentally hurt things. So you don't want that to happen. Alright, so that is defining a site.